Taking control of your taxes doesn't need to be difficult. In this beginner's video, I will guide you through how to set up Solo so you can confidently manage your taxes. The first step is to configure Solo settings. Click the Complete Settings button or go to Settings in the main menu. You only need to set up your account once. This will customize Solo's features to your unique situation. Leave provisional tax set to No if this is your first year being self-employed. Otherwise, select 6 monthly if you also file your GST returns 6 monthly. Or, if neither of those situations apply to you, use the 4 monthly default option. We will leave it disabled for now. If you're GST registered, select the GST frequency and filing periods that are relevant to you. If you're unsure what your GST details are, check your MyIR account. If you started paying GST part-way through the tax year, set a GST start date, and Solo will calculate GST from that date onward. When you're self-employed, you need to pay ACC. Your BIC code identifies the type of work you do and is used to calculate your ACC. For detailed instructions on how to find it, click the How to Find Your BIC Code link. You don't need to enter a BIC code if you only earn rental income. If you earn rental property income, enable rental income and select your rental type. If you work from home, enter the percentage of your home that you use for work, for example, 15%. Enable I own the home if you own the home in which you work. If you use a vehicle for business, enter the percentage that your vehicle is used for work, for example, 25%. Lastly, enable commercial office if you work from a commercial office, workshop, or co-working space. That's it! The hard part is all done. Make sure you click Save. For detailed instructions regarding each setting, click the link How to Configure Your Settings at the top of the page. Next, let's start tracking your income in Solo. To accurately calculate your taxes, Solo first needs to know how much income you have earned since the beginning of the tax year. There are 2 ways of getting your income into Solo. The first one is connecting your IRD account. If you have any income that is taxed before you get paid, such as a salary, wages, scheduler payments, or bank interest, you can sync this income directly from IRD. Enter your IRD login details to connect your account. Your income, as well as the amount of tax paid, will be automatically synced from the IRD and included in Solo's calculations. You don't need to categorize any transactions for income sources that appear in your IRD feed. The second way to get your income into Solo is to sync your bank transactions. Use this method if you have income that is not taxed before you receive it, such as self-employed income or rental property income. Follow the prompts to connect your bank. Solo does not store your bank login details. You can connect as many banks and accounts as you need. Make sure that you sync your transactions since the beginning of the tax year. Your transactions will now appear on the income page, ready to be categorized. If you don't want to connect your bank, you can also upload a transaction file from your bank, or click on the plus icon to manually enter transactions. Next, let's categorize your income transactions to include them in Solo's tax calculations. Simply select the appropriate category from the drop-down menu. Then click the tick button to save the transaction. The transaction will then be moved to the Income tab and included in Solo's calculations. Click the down arrow to edit a transaction. If you have GST enabled, you can see how much GST is being calculated on the transaction. For any non-income transactions, such as transfers or a payment from a friend, you can either categorize them using the Archive category or simply leave them as uncategorized and Solo will exclude them from your tax calculations. Now that we've categorized some transactions, you can see that Solo is calculating your income. There is a snapshot of your current taxes and how much you should have set aside to cover your upcoming tax payments. On the Taxes page, you will see all your upcoming tax obligations for the next 12 months. I will cover what to do when a tax period becomes due later in this video. If you've started using Solo late in the tax year, you might see some tax payments in the snapshot that you've already paid. In that situation, go to the Taxes page and complete the paid period. No data is sent to the IRD and the period will be removed from your dashboard. Also, if you'd like to calculate your tax for a previous tax year, simply categorize an income transaction from that year, and the relevant tax periods will appear. Next, let's reduce your tax bill by claiming some expenses. Now for the fun part. Let's claim expenses and watch your tax bill reduce. To claim business expenses, you first need to categorize your expense transactions. Simply select the appropriate category from the drop-down menu. The categories you see here are based on your tax settings. For example, you will only see home office categories if you have set a home office percentage in your tax settings. If you're not sure which expenses to claim, click the link, "Which expenses can I claim?" at the top of the page. Once you've selected a category, click the tick button to save the transaction. The transaction will then be moved to the Expenses tab and included in Solo's calculations. Click the down arrow to edit a transaction. If you have GST enabled, you can see how much GST is being calculated on the transaction. You can also see the percentage of the expense that is being claimed. This is the percentage that you entered in your tax settings. For any non-income transactions, such as transfers or personal expenses, you can either categorize them using the Archive category or simply leave them as uncategorized, and Solo will exclude them from your tax calculations. Now that we've categorized some expenses, you can see that Solo is calculating your total expenses. Expenses reduce your profit and therefore the amount of tax you pay. You can see a running total of how much you've saved. If you've started using Solo late in the tax year, you might have a lot of expense transactions to categorize. To bulk categorize transactions, use the search to group transactions. Then select the transactions and use the Categorize All dropdown. Make sure you save each transaction. Next, let's file your tax returns. Once you have imported your income and claimed any expenses, Solo will calculate your income tax, GST, and ACC. The Taxes page provides an overview of all your upcoming tax obligations for the next 12 months. When a tax return becomes due, click the File and Pay button next to the due period. In a separate window, open the IRD website and log into your MyIR account. Copy and paste the figures generated by Solo into your online IRD tax return. Once you have completed your tax return in MyIR, click the Done button inside Solo to close the tax period. That's it. Your tax return is completed. No tax payments are made through Solo, and Solo does not send any data to the IRD. You can preview a tax period at any time before it becomes due. You can also undo a closed tax period at any time. Just go to the History tab and click the Undo button. If you need help, there are step-by-step instructions available for each tax type. Next, I'll give you some tips for streamlining your taxes. Staying on top of your taxes is easy with Solo. Just continue to categorize any new income and expense transactions and file your tax returns as they become due. I recommend categorizing your transactions as soon as you receive them so that Solo's calculations are always up to date. I also recommend setting up a separate bank account and putting aside the Put Aside for Tax amount. That way you're always prepared for tax time. To summarize, categorize your income transactions as you receive them. Categorize your expenses as you receive them. Put aside your tax so you're always prepared. File your tax returns when they're due. You can subscribe to Solo at any time during your free trial or after the trial ends. I hope you enjoy using Solo and it makes your life a little easier. If you have any questions or would like to suggest an improvement, please send us a message through the in-app chat. Thanks for watching.